What gives life meaning even in the darkest places on earth? In 1942, Viktor Frankl, a Jewish psychiatrist in Vienna, was deported to Auschwitz. He lost his parents, his wife, his life's work, a manuscript hidden in his coat. Everything he thought made life worth living was gone in days, and yet, out of that devastation, Frankl discovered something deeper. The meaning is not given by comfort or circumstance. It's something we choose, even and especially through suffering. This is the essence of man's search for meaning. One of the most influential books of the 20th century, Frankl survived the camps, he rebuilt his life, and he created a new school of psychotherapy, logotherapy, built not on the will to pleasure or power but on the will to purpose. In this video, we won't just summarize the book, we'll walk through its soul moment by moment, quote by quote, to explore what Frankl called the last of the human freedoms, the freedom to choose one's attitude in any given circumstance. By the end, you may begin to see your own pain and your own life in a completely new light. Prisoner 119104, Frankl's first hours in Auschwitz compress a lifetime of lessons into a single night. As the transport door slid open, the prisoners were greeted not by guards barking orders, but by an unnerving silence broken only by distant machinery. The machinery he soon learned belonged to the crematoria. Within minutes he was stripped, shaven, catalogued, and renamed Prisoner 119104. The confiscation of his clothes also meant the loss of the precious manuscript he had sewn into his coat lining, a work he considered the summation of his life's research. That loss lands with brutal symbolism. Everything external, family, profession, possessions, could vanish in an instant, yet in that vacuum, Frankl discovered an interior space untouched by guards or gas. He writes, "We who lived in the camps can remember the men who walked through the huts comforting others, giving away their last piece of bread." Such moments revealed that freedom of inner attitude was not a poetic abstraction but an existential fact. The initial psychological phase Frankl calls shock manifested as surreal detachment, even the infamous selection, one line to forced labor, another to death, felt like bad theater. He recounts watching a fellow doctor quietly recalculating dosages for morphine in his head, a coping mechanism that preserved professional identity. These fragments of normalcy, however fragile, were acts of mental sovereignty. Frankl's stoic impulse surfaces here. External events are beyond us, but the meaning we assign to them remains ours. He would later encode this insight into logotherapy. Yet as seed germinated the moment his name became a number, paradoxically, dehumanization awakened in him a deeper sense of human dignity. Whenever despair rose, he recalled his wife's image or the possibility of rewriting his book, both mental anchors that proved the mind's ability to transcend physical misery. Thus, Prisoner 119104 is not merely a biographical detail, it is the crucible in which Frankl's core premise was forged. Everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances. Three phases of camp psychology. In this part of the book, Frankl does more than record events. He charts the inner geography of a human being forced into the extreme. By watching how the mind bends and sometimes breaks, he discovers what remains unbreakable. Phase 1. Shock. The first encounter with the camp does not hurt so much as it numbs. Frankl notes that a physician, a husband, a son stripped naked and shorn can only stare in mute disbelief. The mind erects a screen of unreality to keep itself from shattering. The prisoner during the first phase looked upon the world as though from a great distance. Everything seemed unreal. Psychic anesthesia becomes a shield. People watch their own lives as if they were a film, not reality. Phase 2. Apathy. Days later, shock is replaced by apathy, the death of feeling. The body still obeys commands, but the soul falls silent. Frankl writes that blows and insults eventually lose their sting, not because cruelty lessens, but because perception dulls. Apathy is survival. The prisoner who had passed into this second stage no longer felt pain. He had become insensitive to daily beatings and cruelty, yet even here, pinpoints of humanity break through. The smell of soup, a sliver of sunlight, across barbed wire, a shared joke, tiny cracks in the armor of numbness. Phase 3. Depersonalization after liberation, freedom, when it finally arrives, is no easy cure. Survivors face a new crisis. Re-entering normal life, freedom, we repeat it to ourselves, and yet we could not grasp it. Many feel survivors' guilt, estrangement, and inability to rejoice. Frankl describes how returning to nature, food, ordinary relationships became not celebration but slow reconstruction of a shattered inner world. These 3 phases are not confined to death camps. We glimpse them whenever we face severe loss or trauma. Shock. This can't be happening. Emotional numbness, the difficult return to feeling and meaning. Frankl insists these reactions are normal responses to the utterly abnormal, and knowing this offers hope. If the mind can break, it can also mend. If emotions fall silent, they can speak again. And even after hell, a person may still find meaning and choose their stance toward life. Sparks of meaning behind barbed wire. What keeps a man alive when everything has been taken from him? Viktor Frankl's answer is both deeply psychological and profoundly human. Meaning, not physical strength, not intelligence, but the presence of a purpose, however small, was often the difference between survival and despair. Even in Auschwitz, where death loomed daily, Frankl identified 3 quiet sources of meaning, 3 inner sparks that could not be extinguished by barbed wire. Number 1, purpose through future goals. Frankl imagined himself standing at a university podium, lecturing about the very suffering he was enduring. His lost manuscript, confiscated on arrival, became a mental project he began rewriting in his head, one idea at a time. Life in a concentration camp tore open the human soul and exposed its depths. If someone had a why to live, he could bear almost any how. This why could be as simple as the hope to reunite with loved ones, or as complex as finishing one's life's work. Either way, it gave direction, and direction is what separates endurance from collapse. Number 2, love, the ultimate inner refuge. In the darkest moments, Frankl found unimaginable warmth by simply recalling his wife's face. He didn't know whether she was alive or dead, but in his mind, her presence remained sacred. Love goes very far beyond the physical person of the beloved. It finds its deepest meaning in the spiritual being, their inner self. For Frankl, love was not just emotion, it was a shield. He describes walking through snow, freezing, half-starved, and yet feeling elevated as he conversed with her silently in his heart. Number 3, attitude and humor, a quiet rebellion. Even within the dehumanization, there was choice. Frankl and a friend invented a daily joke hour, a moment to step outside fear, even for a few minutes. One evening, he refused a bribe from a camp official to trade his shoes for extra soup. It was a small act of inner resistance, but to Frankl, it preserved his dignity. These gestures, humor, choice, defiance, were not naive optimism. They were the last proofs of freedom. Everything can be taken from a man but one thing: the freedom to choose his attitude. These sparks purpose. Love and attitude are not limited to camps or war. They are available to all of us, especially when we feel lost, trapped, or hollowed by suffering. Frankl's insight is radical in its hope. Even when life becomes a series of losses, we still get to choose the meaning we assign to those losses, and in that choice, we rediscover not just ourselves but our strength. birth of logotherapy, Viktor Frankl did not just survive Auschwitz, he transformed it not by denial, but by extracting meaning from horror. From this furnace, he forged logotherapy, a psychological approach built on one radical idea: life is never made unbearable by circumstances, but only by lack of meaning and purpose. While Freud said we seek pleasure, and Adler claimed we seek power, Frankl believed our deepest drive is the will to meaning. What is logotherapy? Logotherapy, from logos, the Greek word for meaning, centers on the idea that human beings are not primarily driven by instincts, but by a need to find purpose in their lives. Man's search for meaning is the primary motivation in his life, not a secondary rationalization. This approach doesn't aim to analyze the past, but to ignite the future. A logotherapist asks not, "What do you want from life?" but, "What is life asking of you?" This shift flips the therapeutic lens. We are not victims of circumstance, Frankl argues. Even when we suffer, we retain the ability to respond, and in that space, we find meaning, the space between stimulus and response. Perhaps the most powerful insight from Frankl's philosophy is this: between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. Even under unimaginable pressure, a person can still choose how they suffer. Frankl saw this in prisoners who shared their last piece of bread, in those who, though beaten and broken, still treated others with decency. Their outer world was chaos, but their inner world was free. This belief that we are not simply reactors, but meaning makers is at the heart of logotherapy. Meaning exists in all circumstances. Logotherapy rests on three core assumptions. Life has meaning under all circumstances, even the worst. Our main drive is not pleasure or power, but the pursuit of meaning. We always have the freedom to find meaning in how we respond. This does not mean pain is good, but it can become meaningful when we face it with courage and responsibility. Logotherapy isn't just for patients or psychologists, it's a framework for living, especially in a world where so many feel lost, bored, or numb. Frankl doesn't promise happiness, he offers something far sturdier: purpose, and through it, dignity. If your life feels chaotic, ask, "What is life asking of me now?" That question alone can open a new path forward. Three paths to meaning. If life is asking something of us, how do we answer? Frankl believed that meaning is not something we wait to receive, it's something we create, discover, and choose. And though our lives differ wildly in circumstance, he observed that meaning tends to arise through three distinct pathways. Number 1, creative values, what you give to the world. This path is about what we produce: our work, our art, our acts of service, our legacy, whether it's building a business, writing a book, planting a garden, or raising a child. Creation gives us a sense of direction and contribution. The more one forgets himself by giving himself to a cause or to another person, the more human he is. Even in Auschwitz, Frankl rewrote his lost manuscript in his mind, lecture by lecture. The creative urge can survive even where everything else is lost. Number 2, experiential values, what you take in from the world. This path flows through the moments we receive deeply: a breathtaking view, the touch of a loved one, the quiet power of music or beauty. Meaning, here, is found in being fully present to life as it unfolds. Frankl often returned to memories of his wife, of nature, of simple moments that reminded him, even in suffering, the world still holds wonder. Love is the only way to grasp another human being in the innermost core of his personality. Number 3, attitudinal values, how you respond to the unchangeable. When you can no longer change your circumstances, you are challenged to change yourself. This is the deepest, and perhaps most heroic, path to meaning. Everything can be taken from a man but one thing: the freedom to choose his attitude. Frankl called this the attitudinal path, responding to unavoidable suffering with courage, dignity, and acceptance. This is where people with terminal illness continue to inspire those around them, where prisoners maintain their humanity, where tragedy becomes the birthplace of transformation. Each of these three paths is open to us not just during peak experiences, but in everyday life. Ask, what am I creating? Notice, what beauty or love am I receiving? Reflect, where can I rise to meet difficulty with strength? Frankl's genius was to remind us that even when life breaks down, meaning does not disappear. It only waits to be reclaimed through what we do, what we experience, and who we choose to become. Existential vacuum and tragic triad. After surviving the camps, Viktor Frankl returned to a world that was physically free but spiritually empty. Many people were no longer imprisoned by fences, but by meaninglessness. In response, he coined two key ideas that still resonate deeply today: the existential vacuum, freedom without direction. In a time of increasing choice and comfort, many people don't feel fulfilled, they feel lost. This inner emptiness, which Frankl called the existential vacuum, often expresses itself through boredom, apathy, addiction, or overconsumption. Man is not destroyed by suffering. He is destroyed by suffering without meaning. When life lacks purpose, we fill the void with distractions, but none of them satisfy the deeper hunger, the need to feel necessary, connected, called. This vacuum isn't always loud. Sometimes it's the quiet discontent behind success, or the numbness behind a perfect social media feed. Frankl's insight: emptiness is not a flaw, it's a signal, a sign that something meaningful is waiting to be pursued. The tragic triad: pain, guilt, and death. Frankl identified three inevitable elements of life that often cause despair: suffering, guilt, death. These are facts no human escapes, but, he argued, they do not destroy us if we face them with responsibility. Suffering can lead to growth, not just grief. Guilt can lead to change, not just shame. Death can inspire urgency, not just fear. What matters is not the meaning of life in general, but rather the specific meaning of a person's life at a given moment. Rather than deny tragedy, Frankl invites us to transform it, to meet our pain not with bitterness, but with courage, to meet our guilt not with denial, but with action, to meet death not with dread, but with deeper appreciation of life. This section of Frankl's thought is quietly revolutionary. What if the very things we fear most, suffering, guilt, death, could become meaningful assignments? Instead of asking, why me, we might ask, what is life asking of me now? And in that question lies the seed of a more purposeful life, not free from tragedy, but transformed by it. Practical applications. Frankl's work isn't meant to stay in textbooks or theory, it is a toolbox for living. His message is simple, but transformative. You don't need to change the world to find meaning, only how you relate to it. This section offers practical ways we can begin living with deeper intention, even in the quiet, ordinary moments of life. Number 1. Ask the right questions. Frankl believed that life is not something we question, it is life that questions us. Ultimately, man should not ask what the meaning of his life is, but rather must recognize that it is he who is being asked. Instead of saying, what do I want out of life? Ask, what is life asking of me right now? This shift removes passivity and opens up responsibility, not as burden, but as invitation. Number 2, reframe suffering. Suffering, if unavoidable, can become purposeful. Ask yourself, can I grow through this pain? Can I help someone else because of what I've learned? Is there dignity in how I'm facing this? This doesn't minimize the pain, it redeems it. Frankl once said, in some way, suffering ceases to be suffering at the moment it finds a meaning. Number 3, Discover small acts of meaning. Meaning doesn't always arrive as grand revelation. Sometimes it's found in the details, helping a stranger, writing a page of your book, spending 5 minutes fully present with someone you love, creating beauty even in silence. Frankl reminds us, you don't have to wait for a perfect moment to live with purpose. You only need to step into the present with intention. Number 4, reclaim your inner freedom. You may not choose your circumstances, but you can choose how you speak, how you think, what you give attention to, who you become in the process. Between stimulus and response lies our power to choose. Frankl's legacy is not a method, but a mindset. We are not victims of our lives, we are participants in the search for meaning. In your daily choices, your moments of silence, your small kindnesses, and your difficult days, meaning is already waiting. All it asks is that you notice. We began in silence, and we end there too, not with answers, but with clarity. Frankl's story teaches us that life is not something we must conquer, it is something we are called to meet, with honesty, courage, and care. In a world obsessed with comfort, Viktor Frankl offered something far more enduring. Meaning, not by escaping pain, but by transforming it, not by demanding life give us more, but by becoming someone who gives more to life. He who has a why to live can bear almost anyhow. Nietzsche, quoted by Frankl. So now, we ask you, what is your why? What story are you shaping even through the hard chapters? If this video sparked something in you, share it. Let it be a quiet offering to someone who might need it too. And if you'd like to walk further with us, subscribe to Quiet Brilliance, not for noise, but for what's real.